how to start and end the day with God. This is so beautiful. So really do your best to drop into this concept. We're going to talk about starting our day, continuing our day, and ending our day with God. I mean, what could be better? Now, we've all heard this term. I am the Alpha and Omega, right? What does that mean? In translation, the beginning and the end. So is it possible that I am the Alpha and Omega, beginning and the end, is also advice to start and end each day with God? If God is the Alpha and Omega, then God is the beginning, supposed to be the beginning of your day and the end of your day. Is that making sense? Just plug in, man. This is about God. Secondary things, human stuff, even bills to pay. Ridiculous stuff like gossip. No. God first, God last, and God throughout. And to say God first and last and throughout, it means staying connected. But it doesn't mean literally praying and meditating 24/7. Jesus says in A Course in Miracles that would be impractical. You know, it's like I was in the middle of reciting something and you forgot to pick up the kids today at school. Now they're at school going, you're wishing they had a different parent, So it needs to be practical. But God, start the day with God. There's a couple of quotes from the Course I'm going to share with you I think are really, really beautiful. But if you don't start and end your day with God, that's called having false gods before God. That's false idols. And I know it sounds like strong language, and guys, listen. It's supposed to be God is my first and foremost thought. That's my backup. I heard some gossip. God is my backup. What is the righteous God choice today? To gossip, to not gossip. To listen to gossip, to not listen to gossip. When you listen to gossip, you're still making a choice. Why am I hearing this? Why did I create hearing this? Why am I believing it? And then what actions I'm going to take on it? That's me. It's not my fault. They said it. No. Why did you even attract hearing it? And why did you believe it? Well, they said it was true. You still chose to believe it. You took it. You bit into the poison there. Drank from the poison. So it's supposed to be God first. Even when someone says to you, why are you divorcing? We don't do that in our religion. We don't do that in our family. Why are you listening to that? God first. I shared a story once before here, but I had a gal I met on a plane, and it was interesting because she was telling me a heart kind of wrenching story about how she was married to a physically abusive guy, but staying married because it was her religion. But worse than that, her father was the pastor of her church, so she had religion and daddy saying, we don't do that. That's against our religion. So she stayed married, remaining physically abused because God would not want it. Wait, I thought you said it was your dad that said no. Well, but God says, where? You lost me. See, how are you hearing that God does not tell you this or that, or tells you this or that? Where are you hearing that? I mean, you can try and go to the Old Testament and so forth. You can even go to the New Testament, and things don't make sense sometimes when they say them. They'll tell you things Jesus said, and Jesus is like, I never said that. They tell you a woman, if she puts on makeup, should be stoned to death. You want to try that one? It's not true. Somebody mistranslated, but even if it were true, it was true for the people of that time. And I've made jokes about that, put on makeup, get stoned. I said there was a mistranslation. What it was get stoned and then put on some makeup. But anyway, now you're going to be out there. I heard Michael believes in getting stoned and putting on makeup. So, yeah, Michael said, we even heard it. So God first. It tells you. See, the people were all wanting to stone a couple of different women to death who were caught in so-called prostitution. Wait, weren't the guys there too? Yeah, they were. But the women are getting stoned. Nothing of this makes sense. But Jesus is sitting there saying, wait. Now, he didn't just blatantly call them out and say no and start an argument. He said, What are you guys doing? We're stoning her. She was caught in prostitution. Oh, you're kidding. Oh, that's just terrible. What do you think we should do, Jesus? I think anybody who's clear enough, who can actually say they're clear enough to discern that they've done naughty things, absolutely step up and throw the first stone. But none of them could do it. And it didn't help that as they walked over to him, they noticed he was writing in the sand, in the dirt. And so they started looking, and he was starting to write the things that each of them had been doing. And some people think it might have been that they stole or they did this and that. For all you know, he was writing which day they were with her. Last Tuesday night, He was showing them Yogandanda's daily calendar. But they couldn't take action, which actually made them mad at him. How dare you unplug us from acting out our games, our abuses? People don't like that. But we have to take responsibility for our lives, guys. Start, continue, and end the day in the light of God. But yet it doesn't mean you have to look holy, sound holy, speak only in a whispering voice. It doesn't mean externally. Jesus says in A Course in Miracles, the teachers of God, and I don't mean teacher, I mean just those of us who are light workers, teachers of God do not necessarily look that much different, generally speaking. It's something happening different on the inside. It's not that and some people take this stuff seriously and they think, well, I'm getting in touch with God now, so I need to speak all whispery, and so it doesn't make any sense. Just be yourself. For all you know, you should be the one going, yes, instead of, yes. It's okay to, I've had this, Sedona is an interesting place because you got spirituality coming in every direction. But I had a cable guy come to my house. A cable guy. And he's been there a couple of times, and I let him in, usually show him where it's at, and I go back to my computer and work. But this time, I could tell he was kind of, please, give me some time. And I thought, now I really check in. I like to be appropriate. So I'm like, well, this is weird because it seems like he's calling for my help. God, all the morning, throughout, and end of the day. So how can I make a difference in this person's life? I don't know what he's asking for, but he's clearly pulling on me to spend some time. So I'm like, and he goes, well, so do you believe in Jesus? Yeah, but is the cable fixed? No, but if I am into Jesus, can I watch anything on TV about him? No. But I was cautious, and he kept, but where do you, worship? And what do you believe in? Do you believe in this? And I'm thinking, this is like surreal. And it's like, okay, sure, and then I engage a little bit. And he goes, is this okay? And the guy was like this. Is this okay? Because I really believe in, and I realized, wow, okay, I need to breathe because this is what we're doing today. This is what's before me today. And you think that's easy, because it's spiritual, but I still measure and check in. How much should I say? How much should I not say? See, you don't just jump to it. So one of the things he shared with me was, I like telling people about Jesus, that they need to accept Jesus, and da-da-da-da. And I said, dude, is that what God is telling you to do? Well, no, I just believe it. If you're not hearing the guidance to do that, maybe there's days you should be passionate like you're being, and maybe there's days you should be tempered a little bit. You see? And then he's saying, you start to sound like my wife. She's all, let people come to you. You don't have to. And I'm saying, she's right. Sometimes. Sometimes do this and sometimes that. Sometimes a little right. He said, well, what do you do? How do you tell people? Aren't you involved with teachers and, teachings and out there? Yeah. And he said, well, how do you do this with people? I said, I try to listen and see what's being guided in any given moment. Well, then what kind of teacher are you? If you're a preacher, are you? If you don't just, I said, dude, you're working on hearts. You're supposed to be making a difference in here. If you make them mad at God because you blast them with it, you haven't actually helped people. And that's important for you to watch. So he heard me, and it was really, it wasn't confrontational. It ended up and continued to be very beautiful. But as I said to him, you start the day with God saying, here I am. But that means not here I am and I'll let you know what I want you to do. You're not calling in God as an employee. You're saying, wait, let me get this clear. How would I serve today? Guide me. What would you have me do and not do? And so this very beautiful thing starts to come through us. We start to notice, that person over there just needs me to help pick them up when they've fallen. I don't have to say, and as I'm picking up, do you believe in Jesus as your personal Savior? It's, I don't need to give you any preaches or teaches. And it's like, just, how can I be helpful? And when you've done a demonstration through the day, when you've done a demonstration of goodness, you're being the presence of God in the world. That's how you stay connected. One of the ways to stay connected is in the mind. Just continue to call it in. Hey, God, listen, I'm sitting at a stop sign, waiting for the light to change or whatever. Just calling your presence in. It could just be a few seconds. That's one way to do it. Another way is action. Just healthy, loving, random acts of kindness. We have to recognize, it's when I say I'm going to start my day with God and someone hits me with gossip or the news tells me of a tragedy or whatever else, understand those things have now gotten my attention, possibly, right? And what I'm saying is if you take that scripture to heart, and it's amazing, God's the Alpha and Omega, but right now I'm thinking about something else. If God is my Alpha and Omega, and I'm supposed to be dedicating my day, life, and evening to God, but something else has distracted me, it's therefore called a false idol. False gods. You've allowed the daily concerns of the world, and we all do that, the daily concerns of the world to upset you. I heard this and this on the news, and what about that? And you buy a car and somebody says, oh, I heard the insurance is terrible on that. Everybody's got opinions. They're going to tell you something about your car that you got. You'd be happy about your car. You have children and people say, oh, God, you have children, huh? And they'll make negatives out of anything. And it's important for us to ask ourselves, well, why am I, what is allowing people to think that I'm interested in that? And believe it or not, it's our own doubts sometimes mirrored back to us. It's our own weak spots that these people can sense and start going after. The more, and it comes down to this, the more you have an identity in God, the more you know who you are, the less people will realize, the less people will think that they can penetrate that force field. This is what we call, in part, the armor of the Lord. It means my aura, my force field, my energy. I'm very clear about who I am. The clearer you are, the more people will know. Don't even bother telling them gossip or making them doubt themselves about whatever they're doing. They'll sense that. You're just clear. So we start our day with God, we continue our day with God, and we end our day with God. Again, actions do that, but also practical steps. Start the day with God by calling in that presence as a feeling. Don't say, dear God, be with me, or God, do this, or God, do that. Call in its presence. Feel the presence of God. Feel it. What is God to you? Well, God's peace. Good. Then call in a feeling. Don't say peace, peace, peace with a rote kind of thing in your head. Call it in like a feeling. And when you're done calling it in for a couple of minutes, then visualize yourself actually feeling that. Get your brain to say, hey, what are we doing? We're going over here. We're going into peace school. Come with me, brain. Okay, and it goes over, and you say, we're now going to program you, brain, neurons and so forth. We're going to program you with something new. Instead of, oh my God, like with stuff of the day, it's tranquility. You're meditating is what it's called. Prayer and meditation can be and should be simple, but it's a few minutes of communing with God. You're calling in, you're not hoping for, wishing for, you're calling in that presence. That's how simple it can be. And you're letting that presence descend into your body, your being, your mind, but you're also imagining feeling it. So you actually kind of, kind of try it on a little bit. Like, what would peace feel like? And you're overriding the stuff of the world that tends to make you anxious, and you're saying, not today. Today we're doing this. We're doing calm. We're doing center. There we go. It's called waking up on the right side of your head. Okay? Start the day as soon as possible connecting with God. Just simple, it's not which Sanskrit mantra you need to memorize. A word or two. That's all. like peace and happiness or love and self-worth. Call in that presence. Do your best to visualize feeling that presence. Imagine living that presence in all areas of your life. So in other words, I don't just say peace, peace, peace. I also imagine what would a peaceful person look like as a parent or as an employee or as a whatever I happen to do in my life. I literally imagine being that thing, the God feeling, in my day-to-day life. And you know what's happening there? I'm actually programming it into the matrix of life. Instead of it being a distant thing, dear God, if you have any love for me whatsoever, I wish that you would send me a such and such, and I hope it comes to pass. I mean, that's like making God into like a horrible Santa Claus that might or might not bringing me gifts this year. Instead, when I'm centered in a God feeling, you would almost have to work to keep good from coming to you. Because when you're centered in God and God is good, good's going to come to you. Peace is going to bring a little easier tendency towards forgiving because I'm calling in peace. Peace is going to mean I have less stress. I don't even have to pray for illnesses to be cured now because I'm calling in the presence of God, and in God there's no illness. See what I'm saying? That's called seeking first the consciousness or kingdom of God. Bring that presence in. And we're going to stray. We're all going to stray, but how far do you let yourself stray? That's up to you. That's not your angel's fault. It's not Jesus' fault, and it's not your parents' fault. If I stray, I have allowed myself to stray. Therefore, it's also up to me to get back, steer myself back to center. How? In split seconds. In split seconds. Well, not me. It takes me hours. Well, here's what happens. If you don't get into alignment with God and stay into alignment with God, you're more likely going to stray, obviously, into the gods of the world, issues and challenges of the world. They will preoccupy your mind instead of God. That doesn't even sound like a good idea. But that's what's going to happen. And it's true that if you stray, it can actually take you years to bounce back in some instances if you don't know how. Your brain's going to hold yourself responsible for going way over here or way over here in life, karma, whatever. Like even dietarily, you go way over here and then it's going to be harder to get back to center. So what we do is we say, okay, we see ourselves straying. Catch yourself as soon as possible and come back. But when I say come back, meaning what? Plug in, guys. Just simply, I see what happened. I own it. I strayed for a moment. No big fanfare. I get it and I own it. And now I'm giving that decision to you, God, that I made, and I'm asking for a new one. I'm choosing you instead of whatever I was just doing. I was starting to doubt about my soul's purpose. I have reasons and tangibles, and everybody told me I'm wrong for my soul's purpose and wanting my soul's purpose. My whole family, you can make a list of all the reasons you stray. It's still going to come back to you, and what do you want to do about it? I'm going to take all their voices and all those stories and everything they said and give it to you, God, and what I want, and choose instead. Remember, choose something else instead. If you don't choose it exercising your power of will and choice, then you won't get anything different. You'll be running on, automatically you'll be running on the old program. So you have to say, I get it, I'm surrendering it, and I'm choosing something else. What is the something else? Oh, I'd like peace and happiness instead. I mean, you do this at a restaurant. You ordered something, you went, ew, could I get something else instead? I mean, you can do it there, I hope. Well, we can do that spiritually. This meal does not make sense. So I would like something different. I chose this, and now I'm going to choose that. Here's a quote from Course in Miracles. Those who hope, but this one's from the Bible first. Those who hope in the Lord or live in communion with God, like I'm describing, will live with renewed strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not grow faint. Meaning, when you're plugged in, you're carried by something else. You really are. It gives you like a greater immunity. It gives you greater resistance to all kinds of things. It gives you greater center strength. It gives you more confidence in what you do and say because you're plugged into center. Start your day centered in God. Throughout the day, recalibrate back to center and end your day with God. So from A Course in Miracles, a new beginning can be reached, but it depends on your willingness to practice this. You can create a new life, but you've got to have the willingness to practice. Each step will help every time it's practiced. At first, these will seem like mere ideas, but eventually they will become positive habits, and then it'll become a way of life and tools for better living. We need not become obsessed with each step, but the proper set of things, like exercises, techniques, adopted consciously each time that you wake will be putting you well ahead. What he's saying there is you really only need to practice a couple of things that are real, that work. Implement them, and they'll become your new way of consciousness. They'll just become your way. Does that make sense? They don't become things you have to do. It's like now you just go, I can't imagine doing anything else. And it's not complicated. I'm not talking about 5 hours. I'm talking about 5 minutes. Start your day calling in that presence. If you have anything else on your mind, what you should do is first own you have something else like fear, worry, and see it, own it, give it up. Then start the refilling. Call in the peace, the happiness, the joy of God. Call it in. Call it in. Then imagine feeling it in every area of your life, including right now. Imagine feeling that. And then give thanks. And you've started the day with God. I mean, it really should take 5 minutes. When I said breathe that in, I don't mean once. You might want to do it a couple dozen times. Then imagine for a minute or two, wow, this is how this looks. This is how this feels. We always have our pray-in the morning where our chaplains get in a circle in the bookstore, and they get together and do prayer. And our lead chaplain, Jeff, led that this morning. And I just made it a point. You know, I asked him if he would lead, and he led. And there was a moment where I just thought, this is so great because I'm not hearing just his words. I'm feeling and experiencing the words, but also the intention of the prayer. I was tapping into his desire to connect us with God. Just tapping into his feeling brought me there. And I could just feel that, whoa, you know, like just beautiful, the wave, you know, getting into that connectedness. And, do I know whatever else? I mean, a smoker, drink, you know, you get into gossip and say, but did you know the guy smokes or whatever? And I don't think he does, but I'm just telling you. You could get in your head and make things wrong with yourself or others. Find God and connect with God and let the little stuff fall away. All that matters is God. Your prayer, your meditation time, I call it communion. When you combine prayer and meditation, I call it communion. Because there's less being done in words and less being done in efforting meditation, like some are very much effort. And I just bring them together and I say, let my words that I would say become simply my intention. And let what would have been meditation simply become the receiving. You see what I mean by that? So it's like a prayer, a wave. A prayer, a meditation. A prayer, a meditation. And it becomes communion. Yes, I'm there. I'm feeling that presence. Then I imagine it so, and I give thanks, starting the day. Throughout the day, in just seconds, I can always go, oops, let me get back to my peace. Peace. Don't just say the words. Imagine, peace, peace, tranquility. It's okay. But, I know. Calm down, center in God. Because if there is a challenge, your ability to deal with it would be much more successful if you were centered in God. So center. Instead of going, well, as soon as I get done with this issue, I'm going to get around to centering into God. Center into God and you'll get the solutions you're looking for. So we do that and give thanks. That's throughout the day. At the end of the day, remember basically to say, okay, how was my day today? Well, here are some areas where I plugged in. Nice job. And here are some areas where I slipped. Then center into your word again and imagine if you slipped, how might that be done differently next time? Well, today so-and-so called and I got so upset and I hung up. Great, don't worry about that. How would you do it differently next time? Well, I probably would try to be more patient and I would word it like this. Great, see what you're doing? You're reprogramming something where you slipped, you're reprogramming it. I'm not saying you fixed it in the mind of the other person yet. You may have, because that's how miracles work, but correct it in your own mind and then that will make a difference in their mind. It'll make a difference in everybody's mind because we're all connected. So keep this in mind throughout the day. Reconnect. End the day Where did I stray? See it being corrected, and then come back to that peace again. And remember, close your day with the last thing you want to think about is, I rest in God. Kind of like saying, I'm going to surrender my sleep time to God. And go into sleep. We take anxieties and worries into sleep and have bad dreams, it's called. But your dream world is part of your awake world too. The nightmares, the fears you have when you go to sleep are going to be part of your reality tomorrow because they're connected. So go into sleep saying, you know what, I rest in God. And imagine that beautiful, I deserve to be able to just drop in and fall asleep. I'm a child of God. You guys, we love seeing pictures. Oh, there's this meme that was put on my Facebook page. It was so cute, wonderful. It showed the arms of God cradling a little child, and that's supposed to be you too. You're supposed to go instead of, oh, isn't that cute? What about you? Can you be cradled? Picture it. Picture, I'm lying in bed, and I'm just melting into the bed, and there's a warmth, there's a presence. Edgar Casey said he used to talk about castor oil packs. Castor oil on flannel cloth over wounded areas that it helps heal them. But he didn't just say, slop it on, stick it on, you're good to go. He said, visualize the healing hands of Christ, because the castor oil's Latin name is Palma Christi, which means the hands of Christ. So he says, picture the hands of. He said about your foods. He said, whatever you're ingesting, picture it doing whatever you want it to do. So, you can eat whatever and imagine this is being nutritious for you. I've always believed that, but still when I prayed with my kids when they were little, we used to say something along the lines, I'd say to them, in our meal prayer, and let these foods bring us all the nutrition we're looking for, something along those lines. In other words, let this food have all that we need to sustain us. In other words, it's in our minds. I'm not saying food is good or bad, or this food's good and that one's bad. Whatever we were eating, we were still affirming that it has what we need, what we believe our body needs, and surrender that. It's all in the mind. Last couple of weeks we've been talking about how everything is in the mind, right? And how we can change our lives by changing our consciousness. So the last couple things I want to share. This last quote that I shared from the Course, though, so important to remember. And paraphrasing part of what that was saying. He says in the Course, you can spend hours attempting to pray and meditate and get nowhere. You can also just devote a couple of minutes and experience God itself. And that's part of what I'm trying to get across. Please do not make complicated communion or connecting with Spirit. God is our source, guys. God is love and God is our creator. So why would we not want to be in touch more often with God, more thoroughly with God, but also more efficiently, more effectively, and easily? This is our destiny. And everybody's thinking about, I can't wait to ascend and I can't wait to do this and that. Right now. Just do it right now. Be in the presence. And not let stuff, destroy. Connect with God in the morning and evening, but also throughout the day. And so one of my last points, guys, when you have to make decisions, because that's part of our day-to-day life, how do you make decisions in your life? Well, I just think about what's the best thing to do, and pressure of family or this or that or at work. And we all have all kinds of false gods that help us make decisions, which isn't very helpful at all. So ask yourself this, try this on. Think of your word or two that you would like to be in consciousness. Think of a feeling word, a God-feeling word, such as love or peace or happiness or joy, right? A God feeling, right? Imagine that's what I want to be. Then just ask yourself this. Any question you have to make a decision on, ask yourself this. Does this decision bring me closer to being that thing that I want to be? Some people do this in corporate world. Does this get me into that CEO position? But that's all still corporate and intellect. Just use somewhat the same principle. What do you really want? I want to be a CEO. No, what do you want in consciousness? Peace. Think of a word, guys. Blurt one out. Joy, love, bliss, good. Compassion, great. Now, all you have to do, based on today's talk in part, is, besides practicing that in the morning, during, and end of the day, even when you're making decisions, because prayer and meditation applies this, taking actions that are random acts of kindness will help get my day to be like God. But third, imagine in your decision making how to bring God into this. And here's what you do. You'll say, okay, God, I need to know what you want me to do, okay? Okay, 2 out of 3, God, and you're flipping coins to get God's guidance. Don't flip a coin. Don't flip a coin. I see a lot of people making it too complicated. Just stop. What is it you're wanting in here? I just want happiness. Okay. Which decision before you is going to get you closer to happiness? And use that as your barometer. It's really simple but profound. Because your head's going to tell you all kinds of things, and everybody around you is going to tell you all kinds of things. Just stop and ask yourself that. We'll bring that into meditation. But your feeling during the day, and when you've made decisions, ask yourself how you're feeling. And if you feel off, you might have made the wrong decision. Or you might have made the right one, but carried into it too much angst or upset still. And if I'm not feeling well in here, I stop. How can I release that in this moment? Because that's not God's will. So let's take a few centering breaths, please. Remember, we want to make this practical, simple, but profound. If I stand right now and start doing some channeling of a being from the 80th dimension, people can go, wow, that was amazing. But how did it change your ability to start and end your day with God? If it didn't become something in you, then it was just nice to watch. It was just a curiosity. But it's a sideshow if it doesn't change you. So, imagine that I say here and now, that if I snap my finger, you're all totally plugged in from now on. You're plugged into whatever you've ever seen in any teacher, preacher, author, healer, gurus, and so on. You can have that right now. How? Every day. Start, continue, and end your day in God, in your own way. So, right now, imagine centering into a word or two that to you makes sense. It's a God feeling. You get to choose it. In some systems, your teachers tell you what your words should be. You get to choose it here. What's your word? What to you is a God feeling, but something you would like in your life, something you believe you could attain? If you don't believe you can attain it, it's probably not a good word for you. So pick one that seems applicable. Now, hear that word or two on your inhale. And when you exhale, hear the words, and so it is, meaning it's accomplished. And even though you did it just once, you're still saying it's done, and then do it again. And let's do it a dozen times. But every morning and night, I would recommend a couple dozen times. But fill up. Now, continue. Not only hearing the words, and so it is, visualize the light of God coming from the heavens symbolically, down through your head, into your heart when you inhale, like it's a gift from God itself when you inhale. Anchor it in your heart for half a second, and then let it wash over you on the exhale with, and so it is. It's like a drop of God consciousness every time you breathe that in. You're getting another drop of God consciousness viscerally into your being. Relax your shoulders and allow it to happen. Feel confidently, that this is happening. Feel confident that you're filling up. At first it's a drop, the drop becomes a puddle, the puddle becomes an ocean. So fill up. Visualize it happening, but also feel it. What if your word is happiness, then your body should start reflecting happiness. Relax your solar plexus. If you're calling in joy, there should be that natural sigh of happiness and joy when you breathe. If your word is bliss or oneness, immediately for me when I call that in, I feel my consciousness open up to the universe. So make it happen. Feel it. Let it be. That's all what I call filling up with God. Part 2, now you visualize, if I've got that in me, if I truly do have more peace or happiness, whatever, picture it happening in your life. Right now, picture being at work and carrying that energy with you. How would you be different at work? How would you be different in your parenting? How would you be different in your partnership? Visualize those feelings in you, in your day-to-day life, and see how it changes what you do. And sometimes it's beautiful, you'll feel inspired. What about other people in your life that you know of that are challenged financially or emotionally? Let's go ahead and include them too. Picture them feeling. You're not imposing it on them. You're just simply sort of blessing them with that possibility. Imagine those people feeling your feeling. Happiness, prosperity. How nice to just see them. Oh, what a blessing. Instead of only thinking of them in the way you were told to think of them. Did you know they're sick and then you think of them as constantly sick? Now you're projecting that energy onto them. See them healthy. See them the way God would see them. And that's really what we're doing. We're calling in the presence of God, but also we're visualizing our lives to be as God would have it be. Viscerally. Part 2 is viscerally imagining all these great things. And part 3 is to close and give thanks. But before we do that, extra piece to our exercise. You have a decision to make. Let's say it's one you made recently, or are in the middle of making, or will be making. Whatever the case, you have a decision to make. Instead of the tension around it, just ask yourself, if my words like peace and happiness are my main focus, then which of my decisions would most resonate with that feeling of peace and happiness? Doesn't mean you're committing mind, body, and soul to go and do it yet, but just try it out. Which brings me closer to that feeling? Living here or living there? Doing this or doing that? Try and be spontaneous with it, but let it be organic. And then spend just a moment in your own way, in your own words, quietly giving thanks. But when you do, give thanks that what you're visualizing, what you're doing is actually happening. You're giving thanks in advance that this is already downloading effects into your life. The universe is already moving and stirring and dancing to bring this work that you're doing into manifestation. It's bringing the healthier decision. The universe is helping you part the Red Sea and be able to see more clearly through life stuff. You're giving thanks that you're feeling, you actually are feeling more peace or happiness. And that what you blessed to others, that's happening and they can feel it wherever they are. That's called miracle working. And so it is. I pray this has made good sense. Start and end. I mean, really, there can't be anything more important. But it's okay if you think there are other things more important. That just means I have idols. Some meditation instructors would tell you that when you close your eyes and you're going to attempt to clear your mind, anything that enters your mind on the way to silence would be like a false idol. It would be a distraction. Doesn't mean you're bad. It just means all the stuff, the monkey mind. I'm totally going to meditate right now. Om, Om, it's all really cool. We're doing all the techniques, and then now I'm going to sit silent and just be in the presence of God. McDonald's. And then I'm going to just center. Oh, I can't wait to get to McDonald's. I'm going to lunch this afternoon. Oh, I've got some calls to make. You're not meditating, but you are. Even that's a distraction, even though it's a drag. That's very helpful for me. Because I just found out today, here's what's more important than reaching my contact in God. And, people don't like to hear that. I remember the first time I said that to a group, I think it was 1986, in a meditation. I was asked to lead a meditation at a center. And I could just feel the bummer energy that goes across when do you see those things? Those are things that you currently are thinking are more important than God. And there was nobody wants to hear that. But it's good for me to know that. Okay, did it all make sense?
Yes.
Good job. Thank you. All right, in a moment we're going to do our closing. We're going to have our love offering. And before we bring out the baskets and all that, and before you reach for donations, just real quick, I want to just tell you, we had an amazing solstice festival yesterday. Those of you who were there, right? Yeah. Great drum circle at the end, and it was just amazing, but the energy throughout. The speakers and musicians, just such a blessing. Peter Sterling and God, just all the energy, the speakers, the whole vibe, the prayers, meditations. It was really, really cool. Theo was a speaker, and myself, and it go on and on, but just a great energy. But the volunteers and Dosi, who was the main coordinator, it was really, really quite a blessing. So I'm very proud of everybody that was part of that. But also they didn't announce, I don't think, the CDs. There are CDs available. I think you can get them online, like downloadable, or CDs, material CDs of the event. So those are available if you like. And also, before you all split for today, you're invited to join us for the candlelight service. We'll have our Sunday service next Sunday, but also Monday, Christmas Eve, I think it is, and then we have our Christmas candlelight service Monday night. That's New Year's Eve. So mark your calendars and join us online. Christmas Eve. Didn't I say Eve? Okay. So that's on Monday night. Then on Christmas Day, Tuesday, we're going to have not a service, but our gathering here, where we come out and just hang out and have some munchies and tell some stories, Christmas stories, and watch a movie. So it's very casual. We move the chairs, throw blankets down on the ground, and become gossip in town. No. We throw some pillows and blankets, and it's like watching children kind of watching a movie. It's very beautiful, kind of has that innocence energy. So you're welcome to join us. That's Christmas Day. But services-wise and teachings-wise, Sunday services next Sunday as usual. Monday, we have our Christmas Eve service, okay? That's the candlelight service. And remember, on New Year's, we also have our burning bowl ceremony coming up. All right, and I think, I think that's it for that. So we're going to do our love offering. Donations, please. I don't know if this is the last Sunday, but those of you who would like to that are here attending in person, the cards on the Christmas tree in the back corner are for us to give gifts to children or people of lesser means in the area. So if you guys would adopt one of those, take a card, put 20 or 50 or whatever dollars to it, and give it to, be sure to fill it out, put your name and the amount on the card, and give it to the office after service or anytime during the week. But do that if you can today, and then we'll make use of that, okay? And we'll report back what we did with all that later on, okay? But your love offerings, please, if you're online, you can make your love offerings there too, just clicking the donation button. Everyone, be as generous as you can be. It's so helpful to us all. All right? So you take your love offering, you hold it to your heart, and even if you don't have funds to donate, just imagine that you do. It's still good for you. Just imagine that you're putting something in there, because we all are part of the same story here. We're all part of the same consciousness. So one day it'll happen and it'll open up and you'll be able to financially afford. But just don't think of it, I don't have. Think of it as, I'm going to put energy in here today. All right? You hold that to your heart and join us in the love offering. Together, divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Since people ask about this, there's a couple of DVD sets. One's called Creating Our Day. This one's called Rebuilding a New Life, and there's 4 talks in each one. But one of the talks in this one is Creating Our Day, and talks in the other one, Connecting with God. So those topics kind of covered today are on different CDs, Spirituality 5 or Rebuilding a New Life, okay? If you want to get those. You mind giving those back to Rebecca? Thanks. All right. So while they're passing around the baskets, which takes about a minute or two, can anybody share, what did you learn or hear today that made the most sense? Yes?
I was thinking about the things that distract me in my meditation, and my phone has become not only a distraction itself, but it's a symbol now of distraction. But,
your phone becomes a distraction, yeah.
Yeah, and a symbol of all the others. But at the same time, I'm happy to slow down my mind in meditation enough that at least these things coming up, I'm untangling them one at a time instead of one big ball.
Yeah, nice. You're untangling some of the distractions. You're seeing more and more. Just do them as they come up. Very good. Anyone else? What did you learn or hear today that made the most sense or was most important for you? Yes?
Choose again, just like the menu. Just choose again.
Choose again.
Reset.
Yeah, reset. Wow, where am I going into that reset? It can be that easy. You can use any terminology, highlight, delete, whatever, any terminology. But wow, it's more like a wow, what was I doing there? I was drifting into doubts and fears. Whew, okay, peace and happiness. Jesus greeted people with peace. That was his most consistent greeting. Peace. He shows up on the water, stormy sea. Peace. He tells the water, knock it off. Lighten up, man. What's all this? You're all tense. Lighten up. Waves? I mean, that's essentially what he's doing. Peace, relax. But it's not just from a Jesus out there somewhere. It's the Christ in us has to be able to speak to our lives and to ourselves that way. You start to get anxious. Tell this thing, hey, chill. Your stomach starts to, so-and-so called and wow. Technically, when you react and get anxious when somebody calls or when somebody says something, it's actually called post-trauma. You're not actually just triggered about something happening right now. You're actually, in part, greatly, responding to past stuff. So you're experiencing post-trauma. Now, when you do that, do you think that does good things for your chemistry? Here comes all the unhealthy chemicals in the system, from adrenaline to whatever else, that can make you anxious or upset. Burns your system out. So, peace, wait. I'm not saying pretend you don't feel what you're feeling. Acknowledge it. Even then give it to God. But then always refill with something else. Do not forget or underestimate the importance of refilling a cup when you empty it. Always refill. That's why I've always called this a refilling exercise. But people then think it to be only something you do after you do healing work. It's how to start and end the day with God. Anyone else before we go into closing? Yes?
I grew up in a family where I was expected to give an immediate answer. And thank God, I learned to go into prayer when I was in a stress situation, especially, but any situation where I was unsure. And the simple prayer is just, show me how to be the love in this moment. Show me how to be the presence of God in this moment, in this situation.
Nice.
And I have not ever ceased to receive an answer.
Nice.
It's always there.
Shifting from
What you said about
needing to have immediate responses to, wait, getting into a healthy place before you respond to questions or choices or decisions you have to make. Yes?
I want to know, doesn't the motorcycle belong to Judy?
No, and I don't have, Anyone else? If there's hands up, it's hard to see them because you guys have light. Yes? One more.
Prayer with meditation becomes communion.
Prayer and meditation combined become communion. And it is good. Prayer and meditation is perfect. It's great. What I'm saying, though, is you'll shift. You'll evolve from, let me tell God what I'm praying, I'm telling God, and then I'm meditating, which is all nice because I'm told I'm supposed to do that, becomes eventually, it's actually a communion. The words of my intention, instead of saying, God, could you help me with this and that, becomes peace and happiness. Because that's ultimately what I was praying for. But instead of words and words and words about peace and happiness, even when you think I need to pray to God for some financial help, you could pray to God the word abundance, and now you're not asking for financial help. You're calling in all the financial consciousness called abundance or prosperity. Now I have it, I am it, and here it comes. Because it's going to attract, magnetically to itself. So prayer still has an implication of me telling. And when I narrow it down, what do you really want? This is what Jesus meant when he said, you don't have to pray a lot of words. God already knows. And we interpreted that to mean, so God already knows, meaning here's my list, my laundry list. That's not what it meant. It meant, hidden behind all your words, there's a word or two that summarizes it. I need fixed on my kneecap and my shoulder, and just ask for peace and healing. And you don't think the rest is going to happen now? That's what he meant. Seek first the consciousness of God, and the rest will come. Why we even have to have a conversation about this is astounding. Because we should all know this. But the human race doesn't yet know it. Because the ego typically speaks first and loudest and gets in the way and distracts us. The needs and the worries and all the anxieties of life. It's like the ego has this propensity for self-talk or gossip. And we have to say, no. If you have anything of validity to say at all, I'll get back to you in a minute, when I center into God and evaluate properly your opinions. If I don't center into God, nothing can be properly discerned. When I'm centered in peace and then bring decisions to myself, I immediately know what things start to take me off of my center. And lastly, please don't, misinterpret what I'm saying. When I say peace and happiness, if you're feeling sadness and loneliness, I'm not shaming those feelings. Feel them, cry, do what you need to do, absolutely. Get a counseling, do what you need to do. However, I'm adding to that. When you're done, the crying and after all that's done, do not forget to refill. Otherwise, everything you just cried out comes back because it's coming from its source and it comes back to its source, the boomerang effect. So when you cast that out, and you've made room, make the room for God and call something new in. It's almost like after every sneeze, bless you. Sneeze out the issues and say bless you. All right? All right. We're going to do our closing song, and we'll include everybody watching online. Anytime you guys are helpful and you feel called to watch, be with us. We have Friday nights are free. Spiritual Insights, with Michael Mirdad, Friday nights at 5:30. We're going to be starting up our Consciously Co-Creating a New Life course. It's an online course for just a few weeks in January. Join us for that. It's really pretty amazing. So we try to keep things simple, but our Sundays are free, but on a donation basis. Friday nights are free. Our Wednesday nights, it's an online course. There's a small charge for that, but we try to make things as available and as free as possible, as often as possible, but also those of you who support by making donations, we can't thank you enough, including your prayers, honestly, including your prayers of love and support. Show verbally your love and support to anything that's been good in your life. If it's not been good, don't bad talk it, just walk away and do something else. That's all you got to do. You guys know certain music I like. I've mentioned a couple bands. How many do you think I don't like? Do you know of any? I don't tell you the ones I don't like. It's no reason, it's not necessary. Some music is just not my thing. But you guys know the ones I like, so talk and feel the things you love. Get into that positive vibe as often as you can. And I love our morning statement of purpose, and I loved our reading for today. Because those things, I don't ask them what they're going to be doing and make it locked in and congruent. It just ends up being that way because these things are designed by God. These services, who's here, who's listening, who's sharing, who's meditating. This is all really designed. And our songs and which one and what placement, it really is casual or happenstance. And our lives are meant to be like that. So if you don't like something we do, then don't watch. Go somewhere else. But if you love it, sit with it and think, this is a reflection of me, not me, any of us. You'd say to yourself, I really like this service. Good, thank you. And own that this is something you helped co-create. But take it to the next level and ask yourself, how can this feeling become something in my life on a day-to-day basis? How can work feel like this? And you're going to go, oh, I know it can't. It can. It may not be that job. We don't know because it's going to be a day at a time readjusting it. But your life, your body, your health, your partnerships, everything is supposed to feel and allowed to feel great like this. I helped conduct this, and it still challenges and pull left and right once in a while. But I just do my best to bounce back because that's what I teach. I don't teach, you all need to live perfectly without no flaws like me. Chiclets for teeth, little square white things, or whatever. I don't tell you that. I talk, about we slip and we need to bounce back, and that's what I do. So look at this in your lives. Please understand you can live this in your lives. Call it in, visualize it, give thanks, but then take actions that match it. If I call in peace and happiness and my words and actions don't match, I am being a hypocrite, and it will reflect as conflict in my life. Okay? So I named 3 things. Call it in, visualize it, give thanks. But there's another step. Your day-to-day actions. All right?